Hello, everyone. This is Rand Nunez at Between the Chalklands podcast, your host. Our guest today is Jeff Frye, former Major League Baseball player. This is actually our first hitter, non pitcher today. We've had some pitchers, I know. So I wanted to pick someone's brain who actually is on the other side of the plate. Um, it's all baseball talk all the time. And we're going to talk some baseball with Jeff Frye. So thank you, Jeff Frye, for coming on.
You're
And
welcome, Randy. I appreciate it, buddy.
yeah, I know. I've been trying to pin you down for a couple of months here, and just wanted to say thanks for finally jumping on. I wanted to go over your major league career. I know you played for about a decade in the '90s and then finished off in the early 2000s. You were drafted by the Rangers, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you played there for several years. How was it in the Rangers organization for you?
I loved it. I mean, I finishing high school and college in Oklahoma. Getting drafted by a team that was basically 5 hours away was really cool. So my friends and family members could follow the Rangers easily and my progress, and then also having the AA and AAA teams in Oklahoma and Tulsa and Oklahoma City was really cool. So it was pretty fortunate. I mean, I didn't grow up a Texas Rangers fan, being from the Bay Area. I grew up a Giants fan, but I think it worked out well. And, I had a lot of great coaches along the way and, played with a lot of great players. So I was very fortunate.
And they just won the World Series a couple years ago. Was that
Yep.
like,
Finally, that was really cool, man.
yeah,
Really, I was more excited for all my friends and my kids who, have been long suffering Ranger fans. I got close a couple times, but
yeah,
yeah,
they
just
did.
how excited they were. That was really cool.
Great. And then in your final years, you played for the Red Sox, Rockies, and then ended up with the Jays, finishing off your career there. And I wanted to talk about a little known fact, it's like a trivia fact in baseball. You're only the second Blue Jays player to hit for the cycle in that franchise. How was that for you to hit the cycle?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really cool. It was just kind of a fluke deal. It was a rough year for me. I was injured in spring training and was never really completely healthy, and had a bad year for me in terms of personal numbers. But yeah, I had one really good day. I hit for the cycle, and I didn't even know that it only had happened one time previously until after. I didn't even know that Kelly Gruber was there when I needed one more hit. So that was really cool.
That sounds awesome. And yeah, speaking of your knee, you missed the 93 and 98 seasons because of that knee injury, both times. But in 98, it seemed a little bit more serious with the news outlets, at least the way they put it back then. And they weren't quite 100% sure of how bad it was in 98. Can you say, like, how bad that knee was?
It was really bad. I mean, I think, in 93, I was just coming off my rookie season and I had a good season. Okay, for a rookie, not great by any standard. But and then I get hurt in the off season. So it wasn't like I had really established myself as a major leaguer. And I think the one in 98, I just had two, pretty good years in a row and was going into spring training as the starting second baseman, lead off batter for the Red Sox, and tear my knee up the first week of spring training and out for the season. It was pretty rough. And especially when you get older, they don't think you're as likely to come back from injuries. But it was so bad that the guy that I was actually chasing, it was a first and third rundown drill,
Mm.
and I was running across the diamond to get the runner between home and third, and it was Darren Bragg, and he did this really funny twist and spin around, and I went to cut him back to third, and my knee popped 3 times as
That
I
sounds so
collapsed,
painful.
and he screamed. That's how bad it was. He heard it. It sounded like chicken bones breaking, just
Ah,
and I screamed, and he screamed, and I went down, and everybody knew it wasn't good. immediately.
Okay, so yeah, pretty bad is the
Yeah.
easiest way to put it. Wow. I am so sorry to hear that. That story is just sending chills down my spine. Hearing that, um, really unfortunate. And you experienced something that only a few other players got to experience, which was the 94-95 baseball strike.
Hmm. That was tough.
Uh, I was going to ask, how was it for you? And did you think it was going to get resolved? Uh,
We were pretty sure it was going to get resolved eventually. The tough part was uh, man, I was having a great season. I was hitting 327, I think it was, and I was like, you know, start of the year because of my injury in '93. I had to start the year in AAA, and once I was showed that I was ready, they called me up, so I didn't get a full season. Um, but once I started playing, man, I was really doing well and hitting 327 in the big leagues and playing second base every day. It was, I felt like I was kind of reestablishing myself, and then all of a sudden I get a strike, and it's like, damn. But I actually was a funny story is I got interviewed on the radio in Texas, and during that radio interview, talking about the strike and what I was going to do, I get a local car dealership, Allen Samuels North Loop Dodge. They had their, I guess, the PR lady called in the radio show and says, "Hey, we'll hire Jeff Frye." And so after the show, I got in touch with her. Rebecca Barksdale, Allen Samuels North Loop Dodge, called me and they hired me during the strike to work at Allen Samuels North Loop Dodge.
so
So it
you're
turned out pretty good. So I actually worked during the strike. I wasn't making much money, so I had to work.
Yeah, I doubt many people make money during a strike at any job, whether it's Major League Baseball or your local grocery store. But so you were a car salesman for a little bit
Well,
there?
I didn't sell cars. I was actually just
Oh,
kind of
okay.
a greeter. They hired me to greet customers and talk to them, and then I send them off to the Wolves so they can try and sell them a car. But I was just basically hung out at the dealership, signed autographs, and was just kind of there. Made a lot of good friends that are still friends to this day. Um, Lance Smith was working. He's like the head guy for car sales, and him and I are still buddies to this day. Mike Lowry was the GM, and it really worked out well because um, back in those days we used to trade our tickets. We used to get 6 tickets for each game, 4 guest tickets and 2 family tickets,
Okay.
or and actually 4 family and 2 guests, and we could trade those tickets out to car dealerships or whoever. Um, for certain things. Like I would trade my tickets, a couple tickets, to get a free car to drive during the season. And
That's
so
cool.
because I built that relationship with Mike Lowry, next thing I know, I got Rusty Greer a car and Darren Oliver a car and Rudy Jaramillo a car. So I was like passing it down to all my teammates and coaches, the relationship that I built. So that was really cool.
That is a cool story. I like that. And I love that you know everyone's name. You remember everyone that you've ever played with. Sounds like, and everyone that you've ever worked with. Um, that's really nice. And after the 94-95 strike, after your seasons in baseball, um, could you say what your favorite position was? Because I know you were more of a utility guy. So at least that's what we would call it nowadays.
And
um,
I really wasn't a utility guy until later on.
okay.
And I think that's like the misconception a lot of people have. When I first got called up in '92, it was because of Julio Franco with the starting second baseman was injured. So I became the starting second baseman.
All right.
'94, when I came up, I was the starting second baseman until the strike. Okay. '95, we get a new manager. I was a starting second baseman until he brought one of his guys over from that organization. And then we started platooning. When I left
Uh,
the Rangers to go to the Red Sox, I was the starting second baseman. '96, '97. Then I got hurt and they signed Jose Offerman, and that's when I started playing all over the field, but really not much until then. But I was primarily a second baseman, and that's always been my favorite position.
All right. And now in the wide world of social media, television, you've done some interviews. You have your own X or Twitter account, whatever you want to call it.
I call it
Um,
Twitter.
yeah, I know. I
I
know a
don't
lot
like
of people
it.
are on the fence, uh, but you're very vocal on Twitter, and you started this she gone, or I should say hashtag she gone movement. Where did that start, and why? Like, what was it that?
It was an accident, complete accident. I started getting into some keynote speaking stuff, and people kept telling me that I need to do more of it. And I said, well, how am I going to get the word out that I'm interested in doing this? And so I figured I needed to kind of develop a presence on social media. And I'd had a Twitter account for years, just never really used it, and didn't really use Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or anything like that. So I made a video and I posted it on Twitter. And then a scout friend, as a joke, complete joke. It's like 11-second video. My son videoed me in the backyard, and I posted it. And he says, "Man, you got 4,000 views." I was like, "Really? What does that mean?" I had no idea. And he goes, "Oh, that's pretty good." And I was like, "Really?" And I checked it out. Then next thing I know, I got all these direct messages from people on Twitter, like bad messages, like people were pissed off.
Ooh.
And I was like, "What is going on here?" I had no idea. And so now it's like these people were threatening me, saying horrible things about my family, my kids. I mean, I had to get Major League Baseball security involved because one guy was threatening me, and he went on Facebook and got pictures of my ex-wife and kids and sent them to me in a voicemail. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. And so all they really did was piss me off. So then that's when I started making videos. And then I made a video, I think the next video, and at the end I said, "She gone," just joking around. And somebody goes, "You should hashtag she gone." I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" I didn't even know what that meant. And then so next thing I know, I'm making videos and hashtagging she gone, and people are going, "We need some she gone shirts and we need she gone hats," and this, and it just took off from there. And I mean, that's why now it is where it is. So
Okay, so it doesn't really have anything to do with the people that you're butting heads with now, the social media teachers and people like that. It has nothing to do with them. It just
no, no, and I certified hitting guru, which I say at the beginning of my videos, I made that up too, because what I started seeing on social media was all these people that um, have limited playing experience or limited success, calling themselves the the pitching doctor or the hitting doctor or all these things. I'm like, how are these people like calling themselves experts when they've never really done anything in the game? I said, I'm just going to start calling myself the certified hitting guru as a joke. And that's how it all started, as a completely joking around. I don't consider myself, an expert or the expert that I have all the answers. I just know what I know from my playing days. And I had some great coaches, and I played the game for a long time, and I just know what I know from experience. But I don't consider what I know or myself to be an expert.
so I like that. You're humble. You know what you know, and you know what you don't know. I had a real quick little fact trivia that you might not know, but in your playing days, you did face Brad Radke, the pitcher, 25 times and had a 400 average against him, your highest against any pitcher he faced 20 or more times. Was there, if you even remember, anything about Radke that made it easier to hit off of him for you?
Well, I mean, I remember his stuff. He had a pretty good four seam fastball that he kind of pitched up in the zone, and he had a little cutter slider. And he's actually one of the only pitchers that I ever um, saw him tipping his pitches, and I heard about it, and
Oh,
I really wasn't. this was after I'd faced him many times, but there was a certain way that he would turn his glove that if he did that, he was throwing a cutter or a slider. And so maybe one or two of my hits off of him were me knowing pretty much what was coming. But the rest of the time, there's just certain guys that, for whatever reason, you see the ball really well off of and you feel really confident, that you're going to get a hit. I mean, Cal Eldred, he did really, I don't think I had 20 at bats against Cal Eldred, but I know I hit him really well. Um, I just saw his fastball out of his hand really well and could adjust to his off speed. There are other guys that I think, didn't really have that overpowering of stuff that for whatever reason I couldn't hit worth a flip, and it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like it's luck.
There's a lot of
You
luck,
know,
a lot of luck involved. But
yeah.
I tell people, I said the more I practice, the luckier I got. You know,
um. So you, you're not you're totally against the hitting gurus, hitting pros, and all that stuff. There's one other thing I noticed that you didn't like was the initiative that Major League Baseball was pushing with, let the kids play. The bat flips, home run celebrations with trots and all of that, taking their time, going around the bases, celebrating. What is it that like you feel is disrespectful to the game that this is being used? Like,
well, I mean, I'm 58 years old, so when I came up, we were pretty much taught that that stuff was not okay. Okay, the guys that were already there learned from the guys before them, and so on and so forth. So we learned that if you did stuff like that, you had the potential of getting hit, or even
yeah,
worse, maybe one of your teammates getting hit. And so we're told to knock it off and don't do that stuff. This is your job. Act like you've done it before. And so that's just kind of the way that we were taught. And my big problem with all the celebration stuff is that I feel it's manufactured because the game has gotten somewhat boring with the 3-2 outcomes. Everybody's trying to hit homers, and you don't mind if you strike out, and it's walks and stuff like that. So they're trying to infuse some excitement, and I think it's manufactured. And then I see that it trickles down into the minor leagues, into college, into high school, into the youth leagues, where I believe we should be teaching kids to about respect and integrity and sportsmanship over just celebrating what you do all the time. And so I think that's my big problem with it.
I agree. I mean, there are definitely some over the top celebrations, and I believe the NCAA is implementing a rule against home run celebrations.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm sure you're for that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem if you hit a walk-off grand slam like Freddie Freeman. I mean, you
yeah,
got to
yeah,
celebrate that. But when you're losing, I mean, one of the ones was I think the shortstop for the Dodgers a few years ago in the playoffs. They were losing 9-0, and he hit a double, and he got to second, and he was doing this kind of. It's like, to me, that's you're getting your butt kicked. What are you celebrating? Your individual achievement? To me, that's embarrassing. This is about team. This shouldn't be drawing attention to yourself. Most likely the worst hitter on the team at that point, and you got a hit, and now you're going to dance on second base. I think it's just silly. I think we should teach kids, to know the situation, know the circumstances, and I just don't think people are doing that today.
all right. And finally, just to wrap up things, um, we talked about your career, some things out of your career. Um, I want to ask you personally, what do you think were some of your greatest achievements during your playing years?
Well, probably my greatest achievement was getting drafted in the first place.
Okay.
It was because 4 years of college, and I actually went to college, junior college, on a basketball scholarship. I didn't get recruited. I had no D1 offers. So junior college was my only option, and I went there to play basketball initially. Ended up playing baseball. platooning as a freshman. And 2 years later, my junior college coach told me he thought I was a year away from getting drafted. And I said, by the Army? And he goes, no, by professional baseball. And I thought he was crazy. I'd grown up in the Bay Area watching the Giants and the A's, and those guys were like superheroes to me, man. I never thought that I could play at that level. Then 2 years later, I finished college, and really no teams even talked to me. I mean, I set the school record in hitting, a first team All American, and nobody even talked to me. So I was done. But my teammate got invited to the Rangers tryout camp. He didn't want to go. I took his invitation, had the day of my life, and ended up getting drafted because of that in the 30th round and signed for $2 grand. So the fact that I got to play for 15 years professional under those circumstances, to me, that's the greatest achievement of my baseball career.
That's a story for sure. Taking your buddy's invitation and accomplishing what you got accomplished. So, uh, thank you, Jeff, for taking time out of your day and talking to me. I know I'm not some huge TV network, but just
That's all
talking
right, man.
shop and having fun. Hopefully, it was a great time for me. Thanks for coming on to the podcast.
No, you're welcome, Randy. I appreciate it, and I apologize for jumping the gun and being a little bit early. But
Don't
I
worry.
look forward to interacting with you on social media and stuff, and just stay in touch.
Okay, yeah, definitely. We'll stay in touch.
All
Have a
right,
good
buddy.
day.
Have a good day.